So if Democrats want the strongest candidate to make sure that no Republican gets into the White House, you're looking at him. But let me also tell you what no other candidate for president will tell you, and that is, given the reality of politics and economics in America today, no candidate, no president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it alone. What we need is a political revolution. What we need are millions of Americans, many of whom have given up on the political process, others who have never yet participated in the political process, to stand up now, fight back, and demand a government that represents all of us, not the 1%. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Watching the Green Bay Packers is a spectator sport. But democracy means, in a very deep sense, that every person here today and every American is extremely powerful if he or she chooses to use that power. And that's what we got to do. Which takes me to the issue of democracy, voting rights, and your governor, Scott Walker. Now, this is an issue I take personally, because I believe very strongly that democracy means one person, one vote. It means that at a time when we have, as a nation, one of the lowest voter turnout rates of any major country on earth, we have got to make it easier for people to vote, not harder. And I think it is clear to me and to any thinking person that what Governor Walker and other Republican governors all over this country have done is try to suppress the vote, make it harder for low-income people, old people, young people to participate. So next Tuesday, let us show Governor Walker that his plans have failed. Let's have the largest voter turnout. You know, in Vermont, I have run for office a number of times. Sometimes I've lost, sometimes, most of the times, I've won. But here's the point. It has never occurred to me, not for 1 second, to try to figure out a way to keep people from voting because they might be voting against me. So I say to Governor Walker and the other cowardly Republican governors, if you are afraid of a free and fair election, get out of politics, get another job. Candidates should win or lose elections based on their ideas, not on keeping people from voting. Governor Walker wants to destroy the trade union movement. I want to expand the trade union movement. I believe that when unions thrive and negotiate good contracts, every American worker benefits. If elected president, we will make it easier for workers to join unions, not harder. Governor Walker wants to give tax breaks to corporations and cut education. I want to do exactly the opposite, expand education. Demand that corporate America start paying their fair share of taxes. Governor Walker has received significant funds from the Koch brothers. And I want to see Citizens United overturned. So that the Koch brothers and their billionaire friends cannot buy politicians and buy elections. Governor Walker wants to make it harder for women to control their own bodies. And I'm going to make certain as president that every woman in this state, this country, has the right to control their own body. The budget of Planned Parenthood. I will expand the budget of Planned Parenthood. In other words, you can get a pretty good understanding of what I'll do as president by looking at Scott Walker and seeing I will do exactly the opposite. I am sure there are areas we agree on, but I just haven't seen them yet. This campaign is doing as well as it is because we are listening to the American people and not wealthy campaign contributors. And what the American worker is telling me is he or she cannot make it on $8, $9, $10 an hour. That the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour is a starvation wage. Which is why we are going to raise the national minimum wage to $15 an hour. That this campaign is doing well is we are talking about the real issues. And sometimes the truth is painful. It's a truth that you don't necessarily want to hear, but we've got to hear it. We have got to discuss it if we ought to go forward as a nation. Let me just give you a few of the truths that we have got to deal with. Truth number one, our campaign finance system today is corrupt and undermining American democracy. Democracy is not a complicated system. It means one person, one vote. You got to vote, you got to vote, you got to vote. It does not mean billionaires like the Koch brothers spending hundreds of millions of dollars to support candidates who will protect the interest of the wealthy and the powerful. When the Koch brothers and a handful of other billionaires are prepared to spend $900 million in this election cycle, more money than either the Democratic or Republican Party, that is not democracy, that is oligarchy. We will not accept that. And the second truth, reality that we have got to deal with is we are living in a rigged economy. It is an economy in which the top 0.1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. An economy in which the 20 wealthiest people in America own more wealth than the bottom half of America, 150 million people. Bullshit! It is an economy in which one family, the Walton family of Walmart, one family owns more wealth than the bottom 40% of the American people. It is an economy where people are working longer hours in America than in any other industrialized country on earth. You all know that? The Japanese are very hard workers. We work longer hours than the Japanese. So what you got in America today is mom's working, dad's working, the kids are working, marriages are being stressed out, children are not getting the attention they deserve from their parents. And despite the fact that we're working so hard, 58% of all new income generated today goes to the top 1%. Are you guys ready for a radical idea? Yeah! We're going to create an economy that works for all of us, not just the 1%. A corrupt campaign finance system that we have to worry about, and it's not just a rigged economy. We also have got to deal with a broken criminal justice system. Again, think outside of the box. Do not accept the status quo as something that we have to continue living with. Today, in this country, we have more people in jail than any other country on earth, including China, 4 times our size. And the people in jail are disproportionately African American, Latino, and Native American. Now, here's something you don't see on TV. There's a lot you don't see on TV. In fact, the most important issues you don't see on TV. But here is one of them. Here is one of them. Today in America, youth unemployment is off the charts. For high school graduates between 17 and 20, if the kids are white, unemployment rate, real unemployment rate, 33%. Latino, 36%. African American, 51%. So here is radical idea number 2. We're going to invest for our young people in jobs and education. In jobs and education, not jails and incarceration. We are going to reform police departments across the country. All of us are tired of seeing videos on TV of unarmed people being shot by police officers. Now, I was a mayor for 8 years. I worked with police officers all over this country, all over my state. The vast majority are honest and hardworking people doing a very difficult job. But like any other public official, if a police officer breaks the law, that officer must be held accountable. We have got to demilitarize local police departments. We have got to make police departments reflect the diversity of the communities they serve. We have got to rethink the so-called war on drugs. Over the last 30 years, millions of Americans have received police records for possession of marijuana. And by the way, that becomes a racial issue because while blacks and whites do marijuana at about equal levels, blacks are 4 times more likely to be arrested than whites for marijuana. Right now, as part of the Federal Controlled Substance Act, marijuana is listed as a Schedule I drug right alongside of heroin. Now, scientists argue the pluses and minuses of marijuana, but nobody thinks marijuana is equivalent to heroin. That is why I have introduced legislation to take marijuana out of the Federal Controlled Substance Act. But when we talk about drugs, all of you know we have a national epidemic, a national crisis of opiate addiction, of heroin addiction. People are dying every day from drug overdosing. In my view, the best way to get a handle on that crisis is to understand that substance abuse and addiction is a health issue, not a criminal issue. to disabled veterans and senior citizens. And what they are telling me is they cannot make it on $11,000 or $12,000 a year Social Security. Nobody can make it on $11,000 or $12,000 a year. In my view, a great nation is judged not by how many millionaires and billionaires it has, but by how it treats the weakest and most vulnerable among us. We cannot turn our backs on seniors and disabled vets who are 75, 80, 90 years of age, who cannot afford their medicine, cannot keep their homes warm. Now, amazingly enough, we have Republicans all over Congress. They want to cut Social Security. Well, I've got some bad news for them. We're not going to cut Social Security. We're going to expand Social Security. This campaign is listening to women. And women are telling me they are tired of going to work and receiving 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. And I know that every man in this room will stand with the women in the fight for pay equity. This campaign is listening to young people. And young people are telling me they do not want to be the first generation in modern American history to have a standard of living lower than their parents. And they are also telling me that throughout their lives, they have been told by their parents, by their teachers, by the whole society, that education is a positive thing. Go out and get all the education you can. They have been told that in a highly competitive global economy, we need the best educated workforce in the world. And then they are asking me, how does it happen when we do the right thing? We get an education, we go to college, we go to graduate school. We're ending up $50,000 or $100,000 in debt. Talked to people who've gone to nursing school, heard about them, $100,000 in debt. Medical school, $300,000 in debt. Dental school, $400,000 in debt. Talked to a guy in Nevada some months ago. He has been paying off his student debt for 25 years. He's more in debt. He is more in debt today than he was when he took out the debt. Today, when we look at public education, we have got to understand that the world is different today than it was 50 years ago. That today, as a result of a changing economy, changing technology, people need more education than they used to. That's a fact. In many respects, a college degree today is the equivalent of what a high school degree was 50 years ago. is why I believe that when we talk about public education today, it is not good enough to simply talk about first grade through 12th grade. We've got to make public colleges and universities tuition free. And we have to deal with the student debt crisis, which is really crushing the lives of millions of Americans. People who are paying 20, 30% of their limited incomes on student debt repayment. And that is why I believe we got to change the system and allow people with student debt to refinance their loans at the lowest interest rates they can find. Now, my opponent and other people say, well, Bernie, you're Santa Claus. You're a nice guy. You're lowering student debt. You're making public colleges tuition free. How are you going to pay for all this? Let me tell you how we're going to pay for it. And again, this is thinking outside of the box. Somehow, 8 years ago, when Wall Street's greed and recklessness and illegal behavior nearly destroyed our economy, Congress bailed them out. That is what Wall Street wanted, that is what the establishment wanted, and that is what happened. Well, I think that today it is appropriate to impose a tax on Wall Street speculation, which will raise more than enough money to lower student debt and make public colleges and universities tuition free. When Wall Street crashed, middle class bailed them out. Now it is their time to help the middle class of this country. All over the country, we have Republicans running around talking about family values. They just love families. But I want all of you to know exactly what they mean by that. What they mean is that no woman here tonight, no woman in this state, no woman in this country should have the right to control her own body. I disagree. They mean that our gay brothers and sisters should not have the right to be married. I disagree. This campaign is listening to people who are often ignored. We are listening to our brothers and sisters in the Latino community. There are 11 million undocumented people in this country. Many of them are living in fear. Many of them are being exploited, and they're living in the shadows. They want, and I want, comprehensive immigration reform and a path to citizenship. This campaign is listening to the African American community. And they want to know know is how come there is always funding available to fight in wars like the war in Iraq that we never should have gotten into in the first place? That there is funding available to give tax breaks to billionaires, but somehow there is not funding available to rebuild communities today that are suffering devastation. It may sound like a radical idea, but before we rebuild Iraq, we may want to rebuild Milwaukee and Flint, Michigan. Cities in this country where blacks and whites and Latinos are going to schools that are totally inadequate, where housing is unaffordable, where the employment rate is off the chart, where health care is not accessible. We are going to change our national priorities. We are going to reinvest in inner cities, not tax breaks for those who don't need it. This campaign is listening to the Native American community. Who has read 5 minutes of American history knows how shamefully we are treated before we became a country and after we became a country. We owe the Native American community more than we can ever repay. And yet, for hundreds of years, they have been lied to and cheated, and treaties negotiated have been abrogated. We owe the Native American people so much in terms of our culture and how we relate to our environment. What they have taught us, and what is the essence of their way of life, is that we have got to live as part of nature, not destroy nature. And when we talk about the environment, I can tell you that as a member of the Senate Environmental Committee, climate change is real. It is caused by human activity. It is already doing devastating harm to our planet. What the scientists tell us is pretty scary stuff, and that is, we don't get our act together in the very near future. By the end of this century, this planet will be between 5 and 10 degrees Fahrenheit warmer. That may not seem like a lot, but it is in fact catastrophic for this planet. And what that will mean is more drought, more floods, more extreme weather disturbances, more rising sea levels, more acidification of the ocean, more international conflict, as people fight for limited natural resources. We have a moral obligation to leave this planet in a way that is healthy and habitable to our kids and future generations. Together, we will take on the fossil fuel industry. We will transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. The fossil fuel industry will learn that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet. When we talk about thinking outside of the box, thinking outside of the status quo, I want all of you to ask yourselves, how does it happen that there is only one major country on earth, only one, that does not guarantee health care to all people as a right? And you are living in that country. Now, I'm a member of the committee that helped write the Affordable Care Act. It has done a lot of good things. We've eliminated pre-existing conditions. 17 million Americans now have health insurance who previously did not. We've made sure that young people under 26 could stay on their parents' health insurance program. But despite those gains, the truth is that we have got to do much more. Today, 29 million people have zero health insurance. Even more are underinsured with high deductibles and high copayments. And every day, the drug companies are ripping off our people in an unconscionable way. They are charging us the highest prices for medicine in the world. System is so crazy that 1 out of 5 Americans cannot even afford the prescriptions their doctors are writing. And people are dying because they're not getting the medicine they need. And then on top of all of that, we pay much, much more per person for health care than do the people of any other country on earth. That is why I believe, and I've said this before, I've been criticized for saying it, so let me say it again. In my view, health care is a right of all people, not a privilege. That is why I believe we have got to go forward and pass a Medicare for all health care program. Now let me briefly tell you some of the differences that Secretary Clinton and I have. Number one, when we began this campaign, we had to make a very fundamental decision. Do we establish a super PAC and reach out to billionaires and Wall Street for funding? Well, we agreed with you. represent the drug companies. We don't represent the fossil fuel industry. We don't want their money. Instead, we did something that is unprecedented in American history. What we did is we reached out to working families and we said, look, if you want to support a campaign that's going to stand up to the billionaire class, that's going to expand the middle class, help us out. And what happened in the last 11 months, quite unbelievably, we have received 6 million individual campaign contributions. That is more campaign contributions than any candidate in American history at this point of the campaign. Anybody know what the average contribution is? $27. So to quote Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg, this is a campaign of the people, by the people, and for the people. Secretary Clinton has chosen another approach. She has a number of super PACs, and in the last reporting period, her major super PAC reported $25 million coming in from special interests, including $15 million from Wall Street. In addition, as some of you may know, Secretary Clinton has given speeches to Wall Street institutions for $225,000 a speech. Now, what I have said, and what I believe, if you're going to get paid $225,000 for one speech, it must be an extraordinarily brilliant speech. It must be a speech that will enlighten all of our people, if not the entire world. It must be a speech written in Shakespearean prose. And if that speech is so great, I think she should share it with the whole country. Secretary Clinton and I disagree on another very important issue which has had a very significant impact on Wisconsin and on states all over this country, and that is our disastrous trade policies. Here are just a few examples of what disastrous trade policies have meant to Wisconsin. In 2008, General Motors shut down its manufacturing plant in Janesville, destroying thousands of decent-paying jobs, and they moved those jobs to Mexico, where people made a fraction of the wages they made here. In 1996, Johnson Controls shut down its Grove City valve plant in Milwaukee, moved to Mexico, where they could pay workers 72 cents an hour. Last year, Johnson Controls threw another 277 workers in Milwaukee out on the street and moved to Mexico, China, and Slovakia. 15 years ago, Briggs & Stratton was Wisconsin's largest private employer with 11,000 manufacturing workers Today, it has only 2,500 workers in Wisconsin after it moved plants to Mexico and China. And on it goes. The loss of tens of thousands of jobs just in this state, millions of jobs all across this country. Because corporate America said, we want NAFTA, we want permanent normal trade relations with China, we want to be able to shut down in America, we don't want to pay workers here a living wage, go to China, go to Mexico, bring the products back into this country. I voted against every one of these disasters. Secretary Clinton supported virtually every one of these trade agreements. All of you know that one of the important jobs that a president has is foreign policy. You all know that the most important foreign policy decision made in the modern history of America was whether or not we go to war in Iraq. In 2002, I listened to what Bush and Cheney and all these guys had to say. I didn't believe them. I voted against the war in Iraq. Then New York Senator Clinton voted for the war in Iraq. Right now, one of the crises that we face environmentally is to make certain that the water that we drink is clean. And that is why I support phasing out fracking. Secretary Clinton has the opposite position. All of you know, who have studied history, that real change, significant change in our society, never takes place from the top on down. It always takes place from the bottom on up. 100 years ago, when workers had no power on the job, when they were being ruthlessly exploited, forced to work 7 days of work, bad working conditions, they stood up by the millions and said, you know what, we're not animals, we're human beings, we want dignity, we're going to form trade unions. We're going to negotiate contracts with our employers and be treated with dignity. For hundreds of years, African Americans and their allies fought tenaciously to demand that in this country we end segregation, racism, and bigotry. No historical idea of the number of people who died in that struggle, who went to jail, who were beaten, who suffered. But millions of people stood up and said that in America we are going to fight to end racism. People forget this, but 100 years ago, which is no time at all from an historical perspective, women in America did not have the right to vote, did not have the right to go to the schools they wanted to go, did not have the right to do the work they wanted to do. 100 years ago. And women and their male allies stood up. They fought back and they said that in America, women will not be second-class citizens. If we were here in this room 10 years ago, no time at all, and somebody jumps up and says, you know, Bernie, I think that maybe in the year 2015, gay marriage will be legal in 50 states in this country. If somebody had said that, the guy next to him would have said, you are crazy, what are you smoking? Which opens up a whole other area of discussion. Here's the point. As a result of decade after decade of struggling, of taking on incredible bigotry and hatred, people in the gay community and their straight allies said, you know what? In America, people should have the right to love whoever they love. Real change takes place. If we were in this room, not even 10 years ago, say 5 or 6 years ago, and somebody jumps up and they say, Bernie, you know, this $7.25 minimum wage, that's a starvation wage, that's an outrage. We've got to raise it. We got to raise it to 15 bucks an hour. What the person next to him or her would have said, 15 bucks an hour? You're talking about doubling the minimum wage. You're crazy. That's too radical an idea. It can't succeed. Become realistic. You can't do 15 bucks an hour. Now you know what's going on? Seattle, Washington, 15 bucks an hour. San Francisco, Los Angeles, all of California, 15 bucks an hour. Bucks an hour. Here is the point. The point is that we do not have to accept the status quo for the indefinite future. We can change it. And what is happening in this campaign, I believe, is that people are looking all over this country and they are saying, wait a second, why do we have grotesque levels of income and wealth inequality? That's not acceptable. Why do we have a middle class which is disappearing and almost all new income and wealth going to the top 1%? Unacceptable. Why do we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth? Unacceptable. Why do we have more people in jail than any other country? Unacceptable. Why do we continue to have institutional racism? Unacceptable. Why do women continue to make 79 cents on the dollar? Unacceptable. Why are we addressing the crisis of climate change? Unacceptable. Why are millions of people leaving school deeply in debt? Unacceptable. In other words, we can change the system. Most politicians in Congress, they don't want you to think in that direction. They want to say, well, the choice is, do we cut education by 4% or 6%? Do we throw 20 million people off of health care or only 10 million people? And if you watch the corporate media, that That is also what they do. They give you these tiny little choices. We do not have to accept those choices. And here is the other point. Here is the other historical point that I want to make. Throughout our history, the way demagogues have always functioned is by trying to divide us up and to scapegoat minorities. For years it was blacks against whites, native-born against immigrants, men against women, gays against straights, always looking at a minority and scapegoating and blaming that minority for all the problems facing our society. And that is exactly what the Donald Trumps of the world are about. They want us to think that the problems facing America are some Mexican worker making $8 an hour. That is not the major crisis that we face. They want to think they're going to solve our national crises by banning Muslims from coming into this country. So our job is to not allow those folks, the demagogues, to divide us up. Our job is to come together. And when we stand together, black and white and Latino and Asian America and Native Americans, gay and straight, men and women, people born in America, people who have come to America, when we stand together and share a common vision for our children and the future of this country, there is nothing we cannot accomplish. President because the people in their hearts and in their souls of our country know that coming together always trumps divisiveness. The people of our country understand that togetherness and supporting each other in our times of need always trumps selfishness. And most importantly, the people of this country have learned what every major religion on earth, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, whatever religion has taught us, is that at the end of the day, love always trumps hatred. Tuesday, a week from today, Wisconsin is going to be holding an enormously important primary election. If there is a large voter turnout, if the people of Wisconsin are prepared to stand up and help lead this country to a political revolution, we're going to win. That next Tuesday, you'll come out to vote, you'll bring your friends and your family. Let's go forward. Thank you all.